and peopled by lifelike robot men and women.
Nothing can go wrong, that was the promise. A theme park where rich guests lived out their wildest fantasies. Gunslingers who couldn't shoot back. Saloon girls who couldn't say no. Androids programmed to lose. But Michael Crichton had a different plan. He wrote a film where everything that could go wrong did, and he did it for less than the cost of a single Disney attraction. These are 20 weird facts about Westworld. And the bonus? Wait until you hear what Yul Brynner wore under that black hat. The park is open. Things are about to malfunction. Number 1. Before Westworld was a film, it was a vacation gone wrong. Michael Crichton didn't dream up the concept in a writer's room or some Hollywood pitch meeting. He got it from Disneyland. In the late 1960s, Crichton visited the park with his family and watched the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Animatronic pirates swinging swords, firing cannons, chasing women through burning villages. And he noticed something. The kids weren't scared. They were bored. The pirates did the same thing every time. Same loop, same movements, same jokes. There was no danger, no unpredictability, no real threat. And that's when the idea hit him. What if the robots stopped following the script? What if they broke free from their programming and turned on the guests? What if Disneyland became a killing field? Crichton went home and started writing. He didn't call it a theme park movie. He called it a warning. A story about technology designed to serve us that decides it doesn't want to serve anymore. The studio thought it was science fiction. Crichton thought it was inevitable. And in 1973, he brought his nightmare to life. Not with a massive budget or A-list stars. Just one terrifying question. What happens when the happiest place on earth stops smiling? Number 2. Most directors start with film school or years as an assistant. Michael Crichton started with nothing. Westworld wasn't just his directorial debut. It was his film school, his training ground, his trial by fire. Before this, Crichton was a novelist and screenwriter. He'd written The Andromeda Strain and sold the rights. But he'd never called action, never blocked a scene, never worked with a crew. So, when MGM greenlit Westworld, they handed the keys to a complete novice. No safety net, no co-director, no backup plan. Crichton showed up on set terrified. He didn't know where to put the camera. He didn't understand lenses or lighting setups. He had to ask the cinematographer basic questions that seasoned directors would laugh at. But Crichton had one advantage. He knew the story inside out because he'd written it. And he had a vision so clear that even when he fumbled technically, the crew trusted him. They saw someone who cared more about ideas than ego. Someone willing to admit when he didn't know something, and that humility became his strength. The actors respected him. The crew rallied around him. And somehow, against all odds, he pulled it off. Westworld became a cult classic, and Crichton, he never stopped learning. He went on to direct Coma, The Great Train Robbery, and Looker. But it all started here, with a writer who didn't know how to make a film but made one anyway. Number 3. Yul Brynner didn't need a costume fitting. He just walked into his closet. The black outfit he wore is the gunslinger, the hat, the vest, the boots. It wasn't designed for Westworld. It was the exact same costume he'd worn a decade earlier in The Magnificent Seven. Same threads, same leather, same gun belt. Brynner kept it all after that film wrapped and stored it carefully, almost like he knew he'd need it again. When Crichton cast him as the relentless android killer, Brynner saw an opportunity. This wasn't just a role. It was a darker, twisted version of Chris Adams, the heroic gunslinger he had played before. So, he brought the costume to set and said, "I'm wearing this." The wardrobe department didn't argue. It fit perfectly. It looked authentic. And it carried weight. Audiences who'd seen The Magnificent Seven would recognize it instantly. And that recognition made the terror even worse. Because this wasn't the hero anymore. This was the hero's shadow. The same face, the same walk, the same costume. But now he was hunting you. Brynner barely spoke on set. He moved like a machine, slow and deliberate. And he never broke character between takes. The crew started calling him the robot, even when the cameras weren't rolling. And that silence, that presence, it made the gunslinger one of the most iconic movie villains of the 1970s. All because Brynner refused to let go of a costume he'd worn to save a village. Now, he was wearing it to destroy one.
Your move.
Number 4. The studio gave Crichton $1 million. That's it. $1 million to build 3 theme park worlds, create futuristic technology, costume dozens of actors, and shoot a science fiction thriller. For context, The Poseidon Adventure, released the year before, cost 5 times that. The Exorcist, which came out the same year as Westworld, had a budget nearly 10 times larger. Crichton wasn't working with blockbuster money. He was working with television money on a theatrical release. So he had to get creative. The sets were small and reused constantly. The same saloon appeared in multiple scenes from different angles to make it look like a bigger town. The medieval world and Roman world were shot on existing backlot sets that had been used for sword and sandal epics in the 1950s. They just redressed them and hoped no one would notice. The robot lab, the control room, all of it was built with practical materials and minimal lighting to hide the seams. And the androids? No animatronics, no advanced prosthetics. Just actors in makeup moving slowly and staring too long. Crichton turned limitations into style. The low budget forced him to focus on tension instead of spectacle. And it worked. The film feels claustrophobic, stripped down, raw. There's no glossy sheen, no expensive effects to distract you. Just human actors, simple sets, and a story that refuses to let go. Westworld proved you don't need a fortune to make a film feel dangerous. You just need a vision and the guts to execute it. Number 5. It looked like magic. The gunslinger's point of view, all pixelated and digital, like he was seeing the world through a computer's eyes. It was unlike anything audiences had seen in 1973, and it should have been impossible, because digital imaging and film didn't really exist yet. But Crichton wanted it anyway. He wanted to show that the androids weren't human, that they processed reality differently, that they were machines pretending to be alive. So he teamed up with John Whitney Jr. and his team at Information International Incorporated, a company that specialized in computer graphics for scientific and military applications. They'd never worked on a Hollywood film before, but they figured it out. Frame by frame, they scanned the footage, converted it into digital blocks of color, then printed it back onto film. It took weeks. Each second of pixelated vision required hours of processing on massive mainframe computers. The resolution was low, the colors were crude, but it worked. And when audiences saw it, they didn't care that it was primitive. They were stunned. For the first time, a movie was showing them what a robot sees. Westworld became one of the first feature films to use digital image processing for a creative effect. Not for backgrounds, not for cleanup, for storytelling. It was groundbreaking, and it opened the door for everything that came after. Tron, The Terminator, Jurassic Park. All of them owe a debt to those chunky pixelated shots of Yul Brynner stalking his prey. Because Crichton didn't just want to make a thriller, he wanted to show the future. And he did it on a computer that barely fit in a room. Number 6. The rattlesnake was real. In one of the film's early scenes, a guest encounters a rattlesnake in the desert. It's meant to be a robot, a safe, controlled part of the park's programming. But when they went to film the scene, the production couldn't afford an animatronic snake. So they used a real one, a live rattlesnake captured and handled by a professional wrangler who swore it was safe. The actor, terrified, had to stand close enough for the shot to work while the snake coiled and rattled just feet away. They filmed it in one take because no one wanted to push their luck. The wrangler kept the snake's venom glands intact. They didn't defang it. They didn't sedate it. They just put it on the ground, hoped it would cooperate, and prayed no one got bit. The actor later admitted he wasn't acting when he looked scared. That fear was real. And the crew, they stayed far back. Cameras zoomed in, ready to cut and run if things went wrong. Somehow it worked. The snake rattled on cue. The scene played perfectly. And after they got the shot, the wrangler carefully retrieved the snake and took it back to wherever rattlesnakes go when they are done being movie stars. It was a small moment in the film, barely a minute of screen time, but it set the tone. Because in a movie about things going wrong in a controlled environment, even the production itself was one mistake away from disaster. And the cast and crew, they felt it every day. Number 7. Yul Brynner didn't want to talk. He wanted to haunt. When Crichton wrote The Gunslinger, he didn't give him pages of dialogue or a tragic backstory. He made him a force, a presence, something that moved and hunted and didn't stop. Brynner understood that immediately. He'd played heroes, villains, kings, and warriors. But this was different. This was a machine. So he made a choice. He would barely speak. And when he did, it would be cold, flat, emotionless. Brenner studied the way people moved when they were focused on a single task, the way a predator stalks, the way a chess player calculates. And he brought that to every scene. His walk was slow, deliberate, mechanical. His stare never wavered. He didn't blink as much as a normal person would. He didn't react to the heat or the dust or the other actors. He just moved forward, and it terrified everyone on set. The other actors said it felt like being hunted for real. Even between takes, Brenner stayed in character. He wouldn't joke, he wouldn't smile, he'd just stand there, still, waiting for the next setup. Crichton didn't tell him to do this. Brenner figured it out himself. He understood that the scariest thing about the gunslinger wasn't that he wanted to kill you. It was that he didn't want anything. He was just programmed to do it. No rage, no malice, just code. And Brenner played that emptiness so perfectly that the Gunslinger became more than a villain. He became a nightmare, a man-shaped thing that looked human, but wasn't, and you couldn't reason with him. You couldn't plead, you could only run. Number 8. The final showdown wasn't supposed to happen in the lab. Originally, Crichton planned for the climax to take place in the streets of Westworld, a classic Western shootout with the guest finally outsmarting the gunslinger. But when they started filming, something felt wrong. It was too familiar, too expected. Crichton wanted the ending to strip away the fantasy completely, to show that underneath the cowboys and saloons, this was always about technology, about machines and systems failing. So, he rewrote it, last minute. The final chase moved into the underground control center, the sterile, fluorescent-lit maintenance area where the park's secrets were kept. No more Western tropes, no more horses or tumbleweeds, just metal corridors, blinking lights, and the sound of footsteps echoing in the dark. And it was brilliant, because the gunslinger didn't belong there. Seeing him in that black cowboy outfit, that iconic hat, walking through a space-age laboratory, it made him even more unsettling. He was a glitch in the system, a ghost in the machine, something that had escaped its programming and invaded the real world. The actor playing the guest had to improvise most of his reactions. The new setting changed everything, but it worked. The tension doubled. The claustrophobia intensified. And when the gunslinger finally goes down, burned and melted in the lab, it's not a triumphant moment. It's disturbing. Because you realize this thing that hunted you across the park, it was never alive. Bohoids, it was always just wires and circuits. And somehow, that makes it worse. Number 9. The park had rules. Guns wouldn't fire at warm bodies. Androids couldn't hurt guests. Safety protocols locked down every interaction. But Crichton had a problem. How do you show a system failing without explaining it to death? How do you make the audience feel the danger without stopping the film for a lecture? So he made a choice. He didn't explain it. He just showed things going wrong, small at first. A robot barkeep glitches. An android gunslinger hesitates before losing a duel. Then the malfunctions escalate. An android refuses a command. Another one stares too long. And then, the snake bites. And once that happens, the rules don't matter anymore. Crichton trusted the audience to understand. Something's broken, something's spreading, and the people running the park, they don't know how to stop it. The film never gives you a clean explanation. No villain in a control room flipping a switch. No evil corporation deliberately causing chaos. It's just systems failing, code degrading, and the people in charge scrambling to understand what's happening while guests die. That ambiguity made the film smarter. It didn't hold your hand, it didn't give you easy answers, it just showed you a world where technology promised perfection and delivered a massacre. And in 1973, when computers were still new and mysterious to most audiences, that was terrifying. Because if you don't understand how something works, how can you stop it when it turns against you? Crichton knew that fear. He lived it. And he made sure the audience would too. Number 10. By the time shooting started, no one was sure this film would work. MGM had doubts. The cast had doubts. Even Crichton, in quiet moments, wondered if he'd bitten off more than he could chew. The script was strange. The budget was tiny. The director had never directed before. And the whole concept, a sci-fi western about killer robots, it sounded ridiculous on paper. But then something happened. The dailies started coming back, and they were good. really good. The tension was there, the visuals worked. Yul Brynner's performance sent chills through the editing room, and slowly, people started to believe. The crew worked harder, the actors committed fully, and Crichton, he found his rhythm. He stopped second-guessing every decision and started trusting his instincts. By the halfway point of production, the film had transformed from a gamble into something real, something dangerous, something that might actually work, but they weren't out of the woods yet. Because the hard part wasn't filming the movie. It was making audiences care about a concept they'd never seen before. And that battle, it would be won or lost in theaters, not on set. Number 11. The medieval world scenes were shot in 4 days. 4. Crichton didn't have time or money for elaborate sword fights or castle sieges, so he focused on atmosphere, dark corridors, torchlight, a few extras in period costumes. The key scene, where a guest is served a feast by android servants, was filmed in one afternoon. The actors barely rehearsed. They just sat down, started eating, and Crichton let the cameras roll. The food was real, the goblets were real, but the tension was manufactured. Crichton told the android actors to move too slowly, to stare too long, to make the guests uncomfortable. And it worked. You can feel something wrong in that scene, even though nothing violent happens yet. The medieval world didn't need battles or spectacle. It just needed to feel off, like a Renaissance fair run by machines that didn't quite understand what being human meant. And that's what made it unsettling, because the androids were trying. They were serving food, pouring wine, smiling, but the smile was wrong. The timing was wrong. Everything was almost right, which made it completely wrong.
Our robots are programmed.
Number 12. Most sci-fi films of the era used models and miniatures. Westworld used cardboard and prayer. The control room's massive computer banks, the ones that supposedly ran the entire park, they were mostly empty shells, painted cardboard boxes stacked and arranged to look like 1970s supercomputers. The blinking lights were Christmas lights threaded through the panels. The screens showing park data were rear-projected slides, changed manually by crew members crouched behind the set. None of it was real. But Crichton shot it tight, kept the lighting low, and moved the camera quickly. And audiences bought it completely. They believed they were seeing a massive technological operation, when really they were seeing a high school theater set, dressed up with electrical tape and spare bulbs. The technicians in the control room, they had to pretend to work real computers, pushing buttons that did nothing, reading screens that showed static images. It was all performance, but it sold the illusion, because Westworld wasn't about showing you real technology. It was about making you believe technology had gone too far.
Chivalry and combat in 13th century Europe.
Number 13. Richard Benjamin wasn't the first choice for the lead role. The studio wanted a bigger name, someone with box office pull. They floated ideas. James Caan, Elliot Gould, even Robert Redford was mentioned. But Crichton had a different vision. He wanted someone average, someone the audience could see themselves in, not a hero, not an action star, just a regular guy on vacation who gets trapped in a nightmare. Benjamin fit that perfectly. He wasn't rugged, he wasn't cool, he was nervous energy and quick wit, a city guy pretending to be a cowboy. And that made everything scarier. Because when the park turned deadly, you believed he was genuinely terrified. He wasn't trained for this. He didn't have special skills. He was just trying to survive. Benjamin later said he spent most of filming actually scared. The close calls with the snake, the long chases through empty sets, Brynner's relentless presence. It wasn't hard to act frightened. He just was. And that authenticity, that real fear in his eyes, it made the audience care. They weren't watching a hero save the day. They were watching a tourist try not to die.
Breakfast at 6:30. Get lunch on your own.
Number 14. The film had no musical score for most of the runtime. No orchestra, no sweeping themes, just silence, breathing, footsteps, and the mechanical hum of machinery. Crichton wanted it that way. He believed music would soften the tension, that it would tell the audience how to feel instead of letting them feel it naturally. So for the majority of Westworld, you hear nothing but diegetic sound. Guns firing, doors opening, the gunslinger's boots on wooden planks. and that absence of music made everything more real, more immediate. You couldn't hide behind a soundtrack. You were just there, in the moment, with no emotional guide to tell you when to relax. Fred Karlin composed a minimal score that only appears in brief moments, the opening credits, a few transitional scenes. But during the hunts, during the malfunctions, during the kills, nothing, just silence and terror. It was a risky choice. Most studios demanded wall-to-wall music, but Crichton fought for it. And it paid off, because when you're being chased by something that won't stop, the last thing you need is a violin telling you how scared to be. Number 15. The guns were a nightmare. In the story, the firearms were designed to recognize body heat and refuse to fire at living humans. Brilliant concept, impossible to film, because real guns don't do that. So the prop department had to create a visual system that sold the illusion. When androids got shot, they used squibs, small explosive charges that simulated bullet impacts. But when guests shot at each other during practice duels, the guns fired blanks and the actors had to pretend they weren't in danger. It required precise choreography. Every shot had to be planned, every angle measured. One mistake and someone could get hurt. The actors hated it. Richard Benjamin later admitted he was terrified every time he had to fire a gun at another actor, even though he knew it was loaded with blanks. Even though he knew the prop master had checked it, because blanks can still injure at close range. The production had strict safety protocols. No firing within 10 feet. No pointing directly at faces. But accidents happen, and everyone on set knew it. So, when you watch those gunfight scenes, that tension you feel, some of it is real, because the people filming it were one misfire away from disaster. Number 16. The final cut ran 88 minutes, not because that's what Crichton intended, because that's all they could afford. He shot tight. No wasted footage, no extra takes for safety. Every scene was planned to the second. When they got to editing, there was barely anything to cut. The film moved fast because it had to. They couldn't afford sprawling dialogue scenes or slow establishing shots. It was all story, all tension, all forward momentum, and that breakneck pace became the film's signature. Westworld doesn't waste your time. It drops you into the park, shows you the fantasy, then rips it apart, from malfunction to massacre in under 90 minutes. Some critics complained it was too short, that it needed more character development or deeper exploration of the park's technology. But Crichton disagreed. He knew exactly what he was making. A thriller, not a meditation. And thrillers don't stop to explain themselves. They just run, and they make you run with them. The tight runtime meant audiences stayed engaged from start to finish. No bathroom breaks, no checking watches. Just pure, relentless tension that didn't let go until the credits rolled. Number 17. Test audiences loved it, and that surprised everyone. MGM screened Westworld for preview audiences expecting mixed reactions. The concept was weird. The execution was unconventional. The ending was bleak. But when the lights came up, people were buzzing. They wanted to talk about it. They wanted to know when it would hit theaters. The comment cards came back overwhelmingly positive. People loved the gunslinger. They loved the tension. They loved that it didn't explain everything. And most importantly, they loved that it scared them. Not with gore or jump scares, with ideas. With the creeping dread that technology might betray us. That the things we create to serve us might decide to do something else. The studio saw those responses and realized they had something. Not a blockbuster, but a sleeper hit. A film that would find its audience through word of mouth. They didn't dump money into marketing. They didn't push for a wide release. They just let it play. And slowly, steadily, Westworld built a following. It became the movie people told their friends about, the one that stuck with you days after watching. And that organic growth turned it into a cult classic. Number 18. Yul Brynner never watched the finished film. He attended the premiere. He smiled for photos. He shook hands with the cast and crew. But when the movie started, he quietly left the theater. He didn't want to see himself as the villain, as the thing. Later, in interviews, he explained that watching himself on screen always felt strange, but watching himself as an emotionless killer android felt worse. He'd spent months building that character, walking like a machine, staring without feeling, hunting without hate, and he didn't want to see the result. He wanted to remember the experience, not the product. Some actors lived to see their performances. Brenner preferred to leave his in the dark. He knew the film worked. He could tell from audience reactions, from reviews, from the way people started recognizing him differently on the street. Not as the king from The King and I, not as the hero from The Magnificent Seven, as the gunslinger, the thing that wouldn't stop. And that legacy, he carried it quietly, never celebrating it, never running from it, just letting it exist separate from him. Number 19. The sequel came too soon. Futureworld premiered just 3 years later. Same concept, different park, but it missed what made the original work. Where Westworld was lean and tense, Futureworld was bloated and confused. Where Crichton kept things simple, the sequel tried to explain everything: clone conspiracies, corporate takeovers, political intrigue. It forgot that the scariest thing about Westworld wasn't the plot, it was the feeling. The creeping dread that something designed to be perfect was breaking down in ways no one understood. Futureworld tried to be bigger. It tried to be smarter, but it ended up being forgettable. Crichton had no involvement, he'd moved on, and without his vision, the franchise lost its edge. The film made money. It wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't a classic, and it proved something important. You can't recapture lightning, you can't remake fear by simply repeating the formula. Westworld worked because it was new, because it was strange, because it took risks that no one expected to pay off. The sequel played it safe, and in doing so, it lost everything that made the original dangerous. Number 20. When Westworld premiered in November 1973, it didn't explode. It didn't dominate the box office. It just quietly existed, playing in second-run theaters, building an audience one screening at a time. But over the years, something shifted. People kept talking about it. Film students studied it. Sci-fi fans claimed it. And eventually, Hollywood noticed. The concept got reimagined as a TV series in 1980. Then again in 2016 by HBO. But even with bigger budgets, prestige casts, and sprawling storylines, those adaptations kept coming back to Crichton's original vision, a park where nothing can go wrong, until it does. The 1973 film didn't need 10 seasons to make its point. It made it in 88 minutes. And that efficiency, that brutal simplicity, that's why it endures. Because Westworld wasn't just a movie about robots. It was a movie about control, about the illusion of safety, about what happens when the things we build to entertain us decide they're done playing. And that idea, it never gets old. It just keeps evolving, waiting for the next malfunction. Bonus fact: under the black hat, Yul Brynner wore a secret. The costume from The Magnificent Seven fit perfectly on the outside, but underneath, Brynner wore custom cooling packs strapped to his torso. The desert heat was unbearable. The black outfit trapped every degree, and Brynner, bald and intense, refused to show weakness. So, the costume department rigged a solution: ice packs sewn into a vest hidden beneath his shirt. Between takes, crew members would rush in with fresh frozen packs and swap them out. Brynner would stand there, perfectly still, letting them work while he stayed in character. He never complained, never asked for shade, never took the hat off. But when the camera stopped, you could see the relief when those cooling packs hit his skin. The gunslinger might have been a machine, but the man playing him, he was still human, overheating, exhausted, and absolutely committed to never letting it show. That dedication, that silent suffering, it made the performance even more powerful, because Brynner was method acting a robot, while his body screamed for relief. And somehow, that torture made him perfect for the role.